You posted something showing like damn near 1.6 plus, I'm sure, of earnings. How many units, would you take to reach that level of earning?
And believe it or not, that was one of my worst years.
Wow.
So because that was post-pandemic income, um, and that's on a 30 unit portfolio,
Mm.
36 unit portfolio, uh, 1.8 I think is what it was. Um, Pre-pandemic, I mean, we had many 3.5, $4 million years, uh, and now it's getting there again. So it's a great time to be in the business.
It's great on pretty nigga. Yeah. See my homie done died on his feet.
Hey, what's going on, Laz?
Hey, how are you?
Pretty good, pretty good, pretty good, man. Well, first and foremost, welcome to the Garage Billionaire podcast. That's first and foremost. Um, Again, thanks for taking the time out to sit down with us. Just kind of going over it again. With the Garage Billionaire podcast, what we try to do is get people like you um, that are very successful, get your story, and we're trying to give it to the people to show them that they could actually um, you know get a certain success level, if you want to call it that. Because the idea is with the Garage Billionaire, there's a lot of people that started in the garage. Well, let me not say a lot of people, but the main people we know, like um, the Gates and the Apple guy and all of those folks, and they started right in the garage. So that's basically the concept of getting started from the bottom and making it to the top. And with you, I hear your story, and it sounds like you basically came from the bottom, and now you're at the top. And we just want to talk about that today.
Cool, cool. I like that concept. I didn't understand the name until you told me, but yeah, a lot of those companies, even Berkshire Hathaway, they were all
Right.
starting at in the garage. So that's actually a great concept.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, let me ask you this real quick. Just for editing purposes, is it possible you could flip your phone horizontally?
Let's try that.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Hold on. Yeah, let me. Well, pretty good. We're here in Tampa. Came to check some of my units here that we have, and and right after this, I'm going to go see a project, a unit that we bought, and just doing a walkthrough after that.
Okay, perfect, perfect, perfect. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's get started. Again, I basically broke down the concept, and as you can see, I'm in the garage, so, just trying to keep the whole idea. Now, let's talk about where you are from, Laz. Where'd you grow up?
Well, I'm originally from Cuba, but I grew up in Miami. I saw that you're from Miami as well. Is that correct?
Yes, yes, I'm in Miami.
Yeah, I grew up in Little Havana, just like a lot of the kids like me. I mean, not a lot of opportunity there.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I mean, tough. I grew up in Little Haiti, so not too far from you. And again, not a lot of opportunity back then, but now, as you can see, all of those areas, they're changing, man. And you know, that was prime real estate, and unfortunately, at least I could say for Little Haiti, they didn't know that, or they weren't there, and unfortunately, all of that stuff is being forcefully taken over, and it's sad, man. But yeah, as far as opportunity, we came from where there wasn't. much unless you push out, you push out from everything that's around you. Now, um, again, you said not much opportunity. How was your upbringing as far as growing up and how you became the person that you are today in terms of your influences? What gave you the entrepreneurial influence or spirit to lead you to where you're at today?
Well, I knew I didn't want to be there. I mean, I saw my environment. I saw most of my friends. I mean, growing up, they're right now they're either dead or in jail. So,
Yeah, yeah.
so I didn't want that. So I started early on, kind of trying to figure out what I would do, trying this business or that business. And I got lucky that early on, I actually had a talent for something, which was sales. And I started working in the car business. And eventually I got recruited to work for Rolls Royce and BMW,
Wow.
as a young, like a really young guy in my early 20s. And, obviously that, coming from where I came from and getting that type of exposure that young, it changes everything. And I was lucky enough that I had, first of all, I was highly trainable. Like most people, like that's actually one of the main things that holds people back, is that they're just not trainable, or they even if they don't know anything, they think they do, and then they can never learn that new skill. When I started in sales, I was just a highly trainable person. So, and like I would like listen and absorb and follow those directions, and I became a really good salesperson and presenter. So,
Okay.
and it led me to by the time I was 24, I was making $400,000 a year in the car business.
Wow.
So,
Wow.
so that type of opportunity definitely, there's always some luck aspect, but you have to be present to be able to get that type of opportunity. And I thought I was made. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, if you came from where I came from, and all of a sudden you're making that kind of money, making more than a lawyer or a doctor,
Yeah, man.
and living in a nice place and driving nice cars, all those things are nice things. Um, but over time, I mean, I got like a lot of people, I guess. I started like looking around and thinking about, as I got a little older, what happens next? What happens when I'm 50 or 60 years old, and and all the guys that worked with me, I could see what they were at. They were divorced 2 or 3 times, and they weren't really happy, even though they had some stability when it comes to material possessions. So I started like seeking out and reading books and things like that. And one of the books that I ended up reading was The 4-Hour Work Week. I don't know if you ever read The 4-Hour Work Week.
No, I haven't. I've heard a lot about it. The reading thing is just like I'm moving around so much. It's like I try to read, and then when I actually sit, or usually in bed, I grab the book, and then before you know it, I'm gone.
Get yourself
So
an audiobook
yeah.
or listen to it on YouTube.
Okay.
But that book, I took up that book. I took Who Moves My Cheese, which was another one, and The Richest Man in Babylon. Those 3 books, I started reading them, and all of a sudden, like especially the 4-Hour Work Week, I started thinking, what's the worst that could happen if I quit my job,
Right.
and then start something else. And little by little, that's what I ended up doing. One day I just didn't go to work anymore, and I decided to start this. That's why my name is Brickle Cigars. I started a cigar company, and that was a life lesson. I lost everything, like everything that I had worked to that point. I lost, like all my cars got repossessed. I wound up getting evicted from my house. Every bad thing that you could think could happen happened, but it led me to meet somebody that showed me about this business that I'm currently doing, that I've been doing for the last 7 years. So, where I was just in my cigar shop, and this one guy who was kind of like my only customer, pretty much. That's why we didn't make much money there. He was hanging out, and he was actually kind of relocating to Miami, and we became friends, and he realized I had my real estate license. So I told him, yeah, let's try to find something. And you're from Little Haiti, so that's where I knew there was good opportunity there. So I told him, well, probably like Little Haiti, because I just so you know, I was like one of the first residents in Midtown when there was nothing there. So I kind of understood that community pretty well. And he didn't. And I told him, look, this like Little Haiti bordering like 54th Street. That's real cheap right now, but that house is going to be worth probably $1 million. So, yeah. And that's what wound up happening. So we found this house on 54th Street. It was actually a duplex, off market, and there was tenants in there. And it was back then that was a bad neighborhood. And I tried to kind of talk him out of the deal when I saw the tenants were so bad, because I figured he was trying to do it as some kind of like rental income thing, and like just to get the property, we're paying the existing tenant, I think $5,000 to move out, and they hadn't paid rent in like a year or two. So it was, I was like, what are you gonna do here? And that's when he told me, well, I'm gonna do this Airbnb thing, and I had never heard of it. And he explained it to me, and I'm like, wow, that seems pretty interesting. And it kind of like stayed there. We worked the deal, and I started doing a little research. And he finally closed on that property, and he made it real nice. And all of a sudden I saw that he was doing this Airbnb thing, and he was getting guests through there. And I'm like, well, at that point we were kind of staying at a friend's spare bedroom. We had no place to stay. And I said, well, maybe I could find something in Little Haiti as well. My credit's jacked up, so maybe I could rent something. And I wound up finding this house on 43rd Street that kind of fit the same scenario as like his house. It was a house with another house on the same lot. And it kind of worked out the same way. I ended up renting it and putting it on the platform, and immediately it generated enough cash flow for the house to be free, which was like a dream come true for me at that point when I was like,
wow. Yeah. So you started Airbnb 7 years ago.
Yeah, there was hardly anybody doing it. I remember when he told me about that, I read this article. I talk about it sometimes. And it was a guy in New York, because he was one of the very early adapters. And this one person actually controlled 80% of all the Airbnbs in New York. And he was doing kind of the same thing. Like he was like renting houses, and I didn't understand. And I was like, wow, how does this one person rent more than like one or two houses?
All right. Hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. If you are, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, and also turn on your notifications so when I drop more videos, you guys can be on point and you get it first. Now, again, the interview, it's a lot of game that's going to be dropped on here. And one thing that's going to be very, very important is that you know your credit score, because with these plays, all these gems that are dropping, game that's being given, you can't really make none of that stuff happen with bad credit. And if you don't know your credit scores and you're an adult, it's like not knowing your name. You're going to look crazy when you go places and try to do certain things. Know your status. Click the link in the description, and you could sign up for a $1 trial, get all 3 of your scores and your full credit report, so there is no confusion. Let's get back to the interview, and thanks for watching.
So, and I'm like, and because he was making millions, he was on Forbes at that point, and he was making so much money that I think the New York State attorneys, like, they came after him and to stop him, because they he was making too much money for their taste.
That's crazy. It's like you can't even make money legally in America without having issues. It's ridiculous. Like, how do you do that in a legal business? But yeah, 7 years ago, I couldn't even imagine like I mean, I'm familiar with Airbnb now, but I'm thinking 7 years ago, I haven't even heard about it or thought of the concept back then. But you was already on it like early, and that's the thing with early adapters. It's like you got to get on when nobody's on, and then you're on top when everybody's trying to catch up. So, wow, that's interesting. So you started in the car business, which I know is tough too. So, like again, I was reading your story. So it sounds like you started off pretty good, at least, in your early 20s. But then again, you said you lost all of it. Um,
Well, imagine like that job, just so you know, nobody quits. Everybody either dies or retires, and the reason I got my job is I think somebody had passed away.
yeah.
So it's a life, like the commitment the company is giving you is kind of like a lifelong commitment.
Hmm.
The training eh, is really extensive, especially to learn some of those type of vehicles, and not only the vehicles but the clients. Like somebody spends $1 million with you,
Right.
uh, that client is yours, so they don't want, there's no like switching between client advisors. These customers, they want to stick with the same person, uh, because they're just older rich guys, once they find somebody that they like. And that's one of the reasons why they wanted me, because there were a lot more Hispanic rich people that were buying cars there, and they felt more comfortable with somebody Hispanic. And I was able to develop like some relationships with some of these wealthier people, and like I have a huge book of business is what I had, with bankers and executives and stuff like that. And some months I would sell 40 cars without even, I would never have to do much. Just they were already just repeat business. And in that type of sales environment, it's not like what you would think about like a normal car dealership, a bunch of guys standing at the door. We everything was, I only dealt in appointment only, and again, it's easy to get really comfortable in that position.
Yeah, and I could imagine, and those cars, I could tell you, I'm sure they sell themselves. Nobody walks into a Rolls Royce dealer, kicking the tires like, asking for price and things like that. So that customer already knows what they want. Opposed to me, I started at a Dodge dealership, and I got in, and
I started my first car business job was at a Chrysler Jeep store.
oh wow, yeah. So like when I got there, the sales manager, he took a liking to me. He was like, you're gonna go far in this business, but he was like, also you have to. And I was real young too, and he was like, I hope you don't have a wife. I hope you don't have, family or whatever yet, or if any, because this job basically consumes your life. And that's really what it was. It was like, you get in and you're there all day and you're hustling and bustling, and you see all the guys, everybody's at the door smoking, and everybody just looks stressed out. And as a younger kid, I'm like, I got in there, I was making some sales, but I was like, yo, this is not for me, because I could see the wear and tear like immediately. And now if I was at a Rolls Royce dealer, that's different, and that was kind of my idea, but I had to get there, which I didn't, unfortunately. And like with you, the benefits to that, like, shoots, I'll do that now just to build your book of business, because the type of clients that you're getting into that environment, that's lifelong business, and that can take you far beyond the dealership. So.
It can, you do develop some connections, that's for sure.
Mhm.
But even that job, it's still the car business. It still has the same politics, and again, you saw it, like those people that have been there a long time. That's your future.
Yeah.
Like, that's your future. That guy smoking cigarettes, that guy stressed out, that guy that had a heart attack on the lot. That's your future. That's who you're going to be.
Yeah. That wasn't for me.
That you don't want that. And I mean, I imagine I sold cars almost for 20 years. So yeah, you know, like I started in my early 20s. I quit my job when I was 36.
Okay.
So that's a whole lifetime of doing it.
So were you already doing Airbnb in between the job or after? So basically after the job, then the Brickle cigars, and then Airbnb.
Yes, like I ended up starting Airbnb while I had the cigar business. I thought, because now, like, imagine I got something. I said I have this thing now that I could live for free. That's like that was first priority. So I had like now a house that I didn't own, but it was paying me rent. And so now I figured, I have enough time. 'Cause I figured a business like that just needed time, is what I thought back then. And I said, now that I don't have to pay rent, I could keep this cigar thing going longer, enough time for that place to like flourish, which it didn't. But the Airbnb business did. So once I got that first property, what ended up happening is I was like, well, I wonder if I could get more. And I heard about that guy. He had all these properties, and I'm like, well, let's see what happens. And wouldn't you know it, there was a for rent sign on the house right next door to mine. That's pretty much like a month or a month and a half after I moved in. And I didn't have any money, but I still called. That's the thing I tell people. You wouldn't. Even if you don't have the money, call. Maybe that there's something you could work out with that person, or maybe they like you. I don't know. But this guy, I ended up calling him, and the thing that we had in common was really that he was really into cars and BMW specifically. So we started talking about BMWs and all this stuff on the phone, and he ended up just coming down to meet me. He was actually a South African guy. He was still here during that moment, and he said, "Coming down," and the house was already rented to somebody else at that moment, but he still came down to meet me. And I talked to him about the Airbnb business and what I was planning on doing and what we were doing on the house right next door to his. And I told him if the house becomes available, because he was at that house, he was actually renting it, the main house as one rental and the back house as one rental. The house that I had rented was just, they were renting everything together. So he wound up having two separate tenants. And, we talked about it and we kind of got friendly. And about a week and a half later, he just called me and told me that the tenant in the back kind of flaked out on him. And if I was still interested in getting that piece of property. And, I told him I still don't have the cash. I haven't got enough cash together. And he basically, he threw me a bone. He told me, you think you could put it together if you get some rentals in, so I'll give you a little time so you could, come up with the cash. And I said, yeah, we could do that. I could, he said, well, I'll send somebody to give you the keys right now. And I had the keys, I furnished, and right away, again, I was able to rent it on Airbnb right away and generate more cash flow for myself. And that's the way it happened. Like, that's why I tell a lot of people, see, if I was scared and I didn't make that phone call, I would have never made that connection. And that guy turned out to be a great help, because he's a major real estate investor who has like 50 or 100 properties in that same neighborhood. Wow. So he was able to help me grow my business, because then he gave me other properties as we became like entangled. Our businesses became kind of entangled because he saw that I paid the rent on time and most of his tenants didn't. And I never bothered him with maintenance. That's another thing I tell people that want to get into this business. Like, if you offer the person something, it has to be worth it for them. They could rent the house to just anybody. But if you tell them, look, I'll take care of the maintenance for you. And look, I'm invested in your house too now because I'm making money. So I'm going to take really good care of it. And he saw that, like, his house all of a sudden was immaculate, freshly painted all the time, nice plants and stuff. So he was like, well, this is good for my real estate portfolio because people drive by and the place looks good. And this guy never calls me for any maintenance. So I wasn't a handyman, but I learned how to fix air conditioners. I taught myself as much stuff as I could, so I could be an asset to those landlords.
Right.
And he wound up giving me more and more property. And once I had a few properties, now I could use that portfolio as like something I could show to another landlord. Like, hey, look, I already have 5 houses in the neighborhood. Do you want to join my program where you don't have to do any maintenance on your house? Let me show you how this house looks, so you can see. And your house looks like beat up right now, but we'll come in and we'll spray wash it and put some plants and stuff. And now you're going to have a nice house. Your bills are going to be paid on time. And, it's like shooting fish in a barrel when you do it like that.
Wow, yeah. So it sounds like you formulated that pitch into basically, a concept that'll be beneficial for the landlord, as opposed to you asking him for something. It's almost like, hey, this is what you get when you deal with me. So, yeah, and considering, the tenants really, screw up these people properties, so you find someone that's going to take care of your property, that's a plus. Now,
that person becomes really valuable.
Yeah, definitely. Now, let me ask you this. Are you renting or buying your units? And what do you feel about buying a unit for Airbnb purposes?
Well, I'm starting to buy a whole bunch of units for Airbnb purposes. And that's kind of like the next stage of what I'm teaching my students as I'm evolving myself, because I went from those little houses like that to then I use the same pitch but at a bigger scale to rent entire apartment buildings instead. And so I have several like entire apartment buildings that I rent, and that's given me some cash flow that now allows me to buy real estate. And that's a good segue for somebody. Let's say they want to start this business, they get a little cash flow that helps them now have the documentation. It also helps them build their credit or whatever, and now they could go in and buy some real estate and get some long-term wealth. Use that faux asset that we had, which the faux asset would be somebody else's real estate that you're profiting, and use that income stream to own something where now you're doing both. You have some arbitrage here, and now over here you have a stream of units where you're buying them yourself, and you're not paying a landlord. So you're taking best of both worlds. And I think it's one of the smartest things to do. This market's a little rough because prices are high right now, but you could still find stuff like we're doing a project in Costa Rica where we bought some land and we're going to develop it. And you could do that if you have a little cash flow coming in because you have these units. It's not that expensive to put something like that together. I mean, a little down payment for some land, 10 grand or something. And then over a year or two, you develop the land, and all of a sudden you got yourself something really special. That's the other thing, everybody wants instant gratification, but sometimes, all the time stuff just doesn't happen that way.
Right.
You have to.
And I feel like, that was kind of my downfall for a long time, not willing to wait, and jumping from thing to thing and not letting it flourish. Now, like you said, it is a tough real estate market right now. Where are some of the places that you invest, or I would say, either rent or purchase for Airbnb purposes?
I'm in Tampa right now. Tampa still, it's getting expensive, but you have to follow the markets. If you think this is a business that you want to pursue, Miami, there's still people doing well there. But you have a lot more competition. You gotta compete with guys like me. So,
Yeah.
But I bet you if I really had to in Miami, I could find some individual landlords that will let me like rent their houses as long as I take good care of them. And that's where I would start. Like wherever you are in the country, I would first start around where I am or in my own house and figure out a way to make some money from that real estate. I always train everybody, try to get to the point where you live for free. So if you have a house, figure out a way to set it up where that house pays you, and then use that in, now you're not have that expense of a household expense. So that gives you a little free cash flow to then get more property.
Okay, okay. And shameless plug. I am a realtor in South Florida. So if you ever need any business or help with anything, I'm sure you got a lot of people. But that's a shameless plug. But anyway,
That's good. That's good. That's good.
um,
And I'm no longer a realtor. I just I can't represent myself, so I found, and maybe you could be one of them. I found realtors that what I just told you, that pitch, I taught them how to be deadly with that pitch against landlords, and then hey, I have a great client, and we use the portfolio against the landlord. Like now you could show what I have, the same thing I did in the beginning, but now on a bigger scale. And you become my front man. Like that's what my realtors are. And you get to make a lot of money. You make all the phone calls for me. So, and I just pick the deal that I like. Okay, I like that deal. And talk to them. And basically, all I have to do in the end is just sign the lease. So
now, let me ask you with that pitch, is that something that's in your course? Is that what you teach in your course? And also, let's say, for instance, that proof of concept do your students have access to, that portfolio, or at least something to show like, hey, I'm connected with, Laz, the biggest guy in South Florida doing this or wherever. Is that part of your program?
that actually is like, that's how come, if you've seen, a lot of my mentees have grown big portfolios fairly quickly, because they're coming in, and if a landlord has a question, if they're not a strong salesperson, but they could always fall on me, and I could talk to that landlord and, hey, this is my partner. He's actually, I'm in Miami, but he's in Ohio, and we're looking to expand our business over there. And all of a sudden that conversation becomes a lot easier. And it worked like that in North Carolina too, and a couple other markets where the people, they asked some questions, and the students were able to fall back on me. And a lot of them, just tell them, look, hey, yeah, this is my partner, and I am their partner. They're my mentees. So, and for the most part, that's enough for them. That's why our success rate is so high, because I help. And even the people that are just doing the course without the mentorship, they get all the information. So it's fairly easy to then present that accurately to a landlord, as long as you prepare yourself. You don't want to just show up there and you're bringing no value. Like you show up, give me your house so I can make money. That who's going to give you that? Nobody.
Right.
But if you
Okay.
do research, it makes it easy.
Now, let me ask you this. What's the least amount of capital you would say is required to get into the business?
Depends how hungry you are, right? How much capital did I start my business with, if you really think about it? So I started my company with $1,500. Now, I was hungry.
Right.
So I had $1,500 of my own. I borrowed another. Actually, no, that 1,500 I borrowed. I got $3,000 from the commission when I wound up selling that house, and I used that as the nest egg to start my business. The furniture, I got it all from Craigslist free. That's how I furnished my first couple of units. Craigslist free, and so it depends how creative you are. Because I think if you're creative enough, I bet you can find a landlord that will let you move in with just the first payment. let's say it's $1,500, and then the cost of furniture, whatever that becomes. Now, if you want to do something really nice, like where I'm at right now, this is one of my Airbnbs. It's this type of setup is a little bit more expensive, obviously. Stuff like this. But this is a luxury community on the water, so the expectations are going to be high on something like this. So this costs like $5,000 to furnish, $5,000 to $6,000. That's what we end up spending on a higher end 2-bedroom apartment.
Okay, so do you recommend 2 bedrooms, 1 bedrooms, or again, it just depends on where you're
That's
starting?
what's out there, like if you're in a community that has a lot of townhouses, and that's what's available in that market, that's what you want to try to concentrate on. I do think 2 bedrooms perform better than 1 bedrooms overall.
Okay.
And houses, if it's a house, it should be 3 bedrooms or more for it to perform well. If you have a bigger house, you add more beds, you're accommodating bigger groups where everybody chips in, and that just makes the place more appealing for the broader audience.
Okay. Now, what do you suggest, like, for someone starting? Because I know with Airbnb, and tell, because I know, I mean, obviously you got the system all put together. Now, I know, especially in Miami, they're asking people to register your business and sign up for the tourism taxes and all of that. Is that something that you would tell people to do, or do you think people could actually get past it without?
It's fairly easy. Look, Miami, I'll tell you something. There's certain areas that it's just not allowed anymore. Trust me, I've been one of the guys that if you do some research, you'll see. I fought the city of Miami because they wanted to shut this business down completely in the city of Miami.
Mm-hmm.
Back when I first started, my first 6 months in, I was because Airbnb back then, they were like breaking into these communities like Miami and all these, and there was pushback, and since the host community was small, they would send like people from corporate, and we'll go to City Hall and we'll do all this other stuff, and we wound up on the news and all that stuff. So in the city of Miami, I mean, just certain places you really don't need to do anything. The license, really, there is no license in the city of Miami. I don't know if you knew that. The license is actually a state license, and I was the first person to ever get that state license in Florida for the city of Miami.
Okay.
And it was like a trial, and you can still get it. It's called the transient rental license.
Mm-hmm.
But the city of Miami now has come up with a way to fight that, because there's certain areas that it's part of Miami 21, the new agenda, where if it's not in the economic density zone, it's just not zoned. They're thinking it's commercial activity, but there's still workarounds, because if you live in that house, you could still do it without it being a problem. But if you have multiple homes, then that's where it becomes a problem. In certain parts that are, if you're in the county, it's completely fine. But certain places that are in the city of Miami proper, a lot of places in Little Haiti actually are problematic right now.
Okay.
But if you're like on Northeast Second Avenue, it's already economic density. So it's just, you have to look at the map.
Okay. Yeah. Now let me ask you this. You posted something showing like damn near 1.6 plus, I'm sure, of earnings. How many units, would you take to reach that level of earning?
And believe it or not, that was one of my worst years.
Wow.
So, because that was post-pandemic income. And that's on a 30 unit portfolio, 36 unit portfolio. 1.8, I think is what it was. Pre-pandemic, I mean, we had many 3.5, $4 million years. And now it's getting there again. So it's a great time to be in the business.
Okay. Now, mindset. Let's talk about just entrepreneurship in itself. How do you feel about mindset and what it takes to be an entrepreneur? Because it is tough, obviously.
Well, the mindset is actually a really important piece of this, because trust me, we've had a lot of setbacks in this business, and I could have given up many years ago. I could have given up. Look, when we first started this business, the city said they were going to come after anybody who was doing this business in the city of Miami. And guess what happened? Most of the hosts stopped doing it. And what it actually wound up doing is making my business better. Because because there was, imagine there was little competition, and then there was really little competition.
Right.
So I could have quit. I could have been scared, but I was willing to put myself out there and go to the meetings, go to City Hall, and fight for my business that I thought was going to be a viable thing where I could make money in the future, a good amount of money. That's the other thing, is being an entrepreneur is not about instant gratification. Once you're in something like this, you have to be in it for the long haul, but you also have to be able to evolve. Like, my business has evolved many times, and it's evolving again now, because I'm talking to you about purchasing real estate and the benefits of that. 4 years ago, I would have told you that was madness. Don't do it. But but now I'm telling you, as my mind has changed and as my goals have changed, that buying some of that real estate is probably a really good idea, especially if you're thinking about maybe retiring at some point, and with some kind of portfolio, that's probably the wisest idea. If you have now, use that income stream to start buying assets, and in 10 years you have $30 million in assets that you can liquidate, and take some time off.
I'm trying to get there, Laz. I'm trying to get there. But Laz, real quick, could we take a 2-minute break, because this thing is ready to cut me off because it only gave me 40 minutes. I only have a few more questions for you. I sent you another link. If you could use that link so we could continue.
Okay.
Okay. So let me end this and we'll jump on the next one.
All right. Very good.
Thank you.
All right. Hope you guys are enjoying the video so far. If you are, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit subscribe, and also turn on your notifications so when I drop more videos, you guys can be on point and you get it first. Now, again, the interview, it's a lot of game that's going to be dropped on here. And one thing that's going to be very, very important is that you know your credit score, because with these plays, all these gems that are dropping, game that's being given, you can't really make none of that stuff happen with bad credit. And if you don't know your credit scores and you're an adult, it's like not knowing your name. You're going to look crazy when you go places and try to do certain things. Know your status. Click the link in the description and you could sign up for a $1 trial, get all 3 of your scores and your full credit report so there is no confusion. Let's get back to the interview, and thanks for watching.
We're back. Thank you so much, man. Like I said, I know you're a busy man, and the people need this information though, and I'm trying to deliver it. So I appreciate your time, man. Just a few more questions and I'll let you go. Now, going back to mindset, because, and a lot of some of these questions are things that I deal with also. Like, when things are going bad, how do you mentally cope? Like, just in general, how do you push through?
Well, I always focus on the goal. You have to have something you're shooting for, like some new ambitions, something. If you don't have a why, you're never gonna make it, right? So my first goal was just to live for free. Then my second goal was to be able to make a good income, and then after a while, I wanted to grow a business, and now I want to grow a business that creates longer term wealth in the future. So if you make yourself like some kind of like roadmap of what you want to achieve, and this isn't like, you can't have some like random like not non-specific goal, like how much do you want to make, like write it out. Like what, like that's what I did. Like how did that guy make $1 million? And I thought about it, like that guy in New York, how much, like they said he was making like $1 million a year. And I did the math, and back then, like I figured it would take around 18 properties. So that was my first goal. How do I get to 18 properties? Because I said, I'll make $1 million. I know I will, because he did it. And there's very little competition. Anything I put up makes money. So let's figure it out. So your goal has to be specific. Like if you really want to make some money in a business or any business, like what do you want to do with your goals? My goal was to have this business and make some money, and it's like that other guy. So I figured out how to get 20 properties.
Absolutely. Okay. And going back a little, how much does a typical, I would say the typical, because, you know, we're talking about numbers of properties to get to a certain point. What does a typical unit bring in monthly, or what should you expect, or how should you calculate in terms of rent, what you're paying for, expenses, and all of that, in terms of what you're going to profit at the end of the month, to kind of get those goals together to me?
That's a really good one. That is the question of the century, right? Okay. So ideally, you want to make at least 1.5 times the rent on those properties. But like when you like really like look back and think about it, like your bare minimum profit per door should be about $1,000 a month. Okay. Per door profit. But when it's like when you're in a good part of the season, that's when you could do. And I've like right now I'm experiencing it again because the season's kicked up pretty well, where most properties are making, like I said, in profit 1.5 times the rent. So, but you're not gonna make that year round, so you have to kind of see the seasonality behind it, and that's where I always came up with a property works is even in the low season I could make about $1,000 on that unit after my expenses.
So what typically are the slow months in Airbnb?
It's all going to depend where you are. If you're in South Florida like me and you are, August and September are going to be your worst 2 months. Okay. Just the way it is. It's a historical trend. It happens every year. So July will be our strongest, and that's the end of the season is what we call it. So the 4th of July weekend is where we have the last kickoff of tourists, and then it'll start winding down. August kind of dies down, and then September is completely dead. And that's a month that you could actually take a loss on some of your units because there's not much business. Once you hit around November, things really kick off, and then the festival season starts. So you start seeing the events like Art Basel and stuff start rolling in, and that rolls all the way again to July.
Okay, so yeah, you just have to be able to sustain for about 2 months, which isn't bad at all.
Yeah. Like once I figured that out, every year I would I would put together a little bit of funds because I knew it was going to be rough, and as your operation gets bigger, that gets harder because now some months you're paying $250,000 or $300,000 in rents, and you could wind up with $100,000 or $200,000 deficit if things get really like crazy 1 month. So we always thought about that.
Yeah, but I guess that's part of scaling. The way I look at it, if you're able to do that, yeah, you don't want to and it hurts, but you're able. And obviously, you're gonna recoup that, but I just want to be able, man.
Yeah, I mean, getting there is half the battle. And it's just every section of the country is going to have some kind of seasonality like that. That people come in droves and then it slows down for a month or two, and every market has its own season. And
Right.
our season, that's what it is. And we have because our weather's so great, we have a really long season because we really have 10 months where it's good, and you only have 2 months where it's bad. Some places only have like 4 or 5 months, but they cram that same number of income into those 6 months is what winds up happening. Like places like Aspen and places like that where they have a ski season, so and their rates are like 2,000 a night. Where here we don't get those type of rates, so they cram that same level of income into 6 months, and we cram it into 10 months.
Got it, got it, got it. All right. So let's talk money.
Okay.
So being successful comes with perks. So, we talked about the upbringing, we talked about the business. Now let's talk about the perks of your level of success. Now, I know you do Turo too, right?
I do. I've kind of scaled back my Turo business,
Mhm.
just because I'm more of an Airbnb guy. I do still have a few cars on Turo, where it allows me to have them for free. But I've scaled back the Turo enterprise quite a bit. Excuse me one moment, because this
No
is a
problem.
guest that needs my help. Hello. Good morning. Hi. You need to take it upstairs, or else it's $300 if you don't. You leave it inside the room. You leave it inside the room, sir. What you need to do is you leave the control in the room and call so we can let you out. Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. Bye. They'll actively have to operate.
Okay, yeah, and that's live exclusive on the Garage Billionaire, where we bring you the real people that's really doing the business. So that's right there.
Yeah, like there's people that will say that they're doing it, but they're not, or whatever. But we were talking about Turo, so I wound up getting a fairly large Turo fleet of like 23 cars, and it was fun and it was substantial. But like my bread and butter business is Airbnb. So again, like I've learned over years of doing business that you don't want to dilute what you're doing. Like I'm good at Airbnb. Maybe some people are really good at Turo, and I think for me, Turo, I could do it a couple cars to have a couple of really nice free cars, and it was good because I wound up improving my credit by buying all those cars and paying them all off. So I've paid off 20 cars in
Wow.
8 months or something.
Wow.
So
Amazing. Wow. Okay. Now, okay, since we're talking about cars and part of the perks, what are your personal cars that you enjoy driving? What's your favorite?
well, my daily is usually my G Wagon. I have a new G Wagon.
I love those trucks, man.
That's it's a safe truck. I also have a GT AMG, which is another like good fun car from Mercedes. I just bought another Corvette last week. I bought a 22 Corvette. I have a Porsche Boxster convertible. I had a Ferrari, but I sold it because like the market, like the real estate market is great, and so is the car market. Like I was able to flip. I bought a Ferrari and I flipped it and made 50 grand almost on it.
Wow.
So I was able to drive it for some period of time, I think a few months. I rented it a couple times, and I decided that the car was just far too nice to just be renting out. So I found a buyer that wanted it more than me, and he was willing to pay. I have to let this guy out. Hello, you're at the gate? All right, I'll open up the gate for you. Fabs, can you let that guy out of the gate?
No problem. No problem.
One of our checkouts.
Okay.
Um,
And you do a lot of the business yourself, it looks like.
well, we're a family business. It's me, my wife, my son. We work together. So she's handling our housekeeping operation. I handle acquisitions, and my son handles customer service.
That's sweet.
We divide the workflow between all of us, and we all still handle some of the internal work on the computer.
Okay.
You know, I handle a lot of the acquisitions and the direction that the company is going. So, and everybody else figures it out once we decide that we're going to go that route. But
Okay.
it's a fun business, especially if you have a family and like we work as a team. Sometimes we fight because we're working together too much, but it's still fun. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna fight anyways. Might as well be making money while you're doing it, So let me ask you this. What is I could appreciate a nice timepiece. What is one of the nicest watches you've purchased?
I have a couple Rolexes.
Hmm.
I have a couple Rolexes. Those, and that's another thing. I think Rolexes are meant to be flipped. Please, hey, open the gate for that guy. He's stuck.
I'm sorry, man. I'm gonna get out of here in a second.
Yeah. So yeah, Rolex is a good watch, and if you could get one, buy it. I mean, you could use it for a few months or a year and make a couple grand on it, and then buy another one. That's kind of what I like to do.
Right. Now, your favorite vacation spot?
Well, my favorite vacation spot. That's a tough one. I haven't been taking too many vacations. But if I had to guess, I mean, I had a really good vacation in Arizona once. I like that. And, that was probably my favorite. Playa del Carmen, Mexico. That was another place that we really had I would love to get some Airbnbs there for myself too. Okay. It's a nice area. Just the real estate is pretty and people pay a lot of money. So if you're looking to invest internationally, Playa del Carmen, if you could get in, that's a good market.
What do you think about Punta Cana, like Dominican Republic? Because I noticed that they're doing a lot of advertising.
Well, I'm sure it's pretty good. Any of those type of destination locations, if you get the right kind of deal, you can make money. I know I have a friend that he's Dominican. He was one of my first mentees. He's looking to start doing some stuff over there now too.
Okay. All right. So again, I appreciate your time, Laz. Let's start wrapping it up. But I definitely want to talk about or have you give the information about your course and mentorship. Now that's two different things, right?
The course and the mentorship are two separate things.
Okay.
The course is a video course, and the mentorship is one-on-one. The mentorship is one-on-one. It's 60 days. I go over everything with you. Plus, it lets you in on like the deals with me, which is what a lot of the people want to do. Is like they don't know where to go, and all of a sudden I do like a big lease, and I wind up letting them in on some of the transactions with me. So in this building, I partner with a couple students, and another building nearby, we did the same thing, and they get to first of all, experience like setting something up like this side by side with me, which is a good part of the mentorship. And the course gives you all that, but in a video form. And and also a lot of people who get the course end up getting the mentorship later because they want to get some of that one-on-one experience.
Right. And what's the cost of the course?
The course is $299, and it's an 8-hour course that gives you all the information you're ever going to want to know about how to start this business and how to speak to landlords and everything else. The mentorship is really one-on-one, 60 days with me. You can meet in person once a week, and we also do a weekly or bi-weekly Zoom meeting with the entire group. Plus, the other thing is you get to be part of the mentee community that I have. They're all like on my Telegram and my Facebook group. So everybody kind of works together. So it's like everybody, there's mentees already have 20 units, and there's some that have none or 2, and everybody's kind of like, oh, this is what I did. This will work for me. And everybody kind of helps each other out, which makes it great because, it's easier when you're not completely on your own, like I was when I did this. Here you could like, hey, what worked for you? Like, where did you buy this? And you have 30 other people that say, well, here in New York, I bought it here. Or here in Texas, I bought it here. And it really is a good community for everybody.
Okay. And the mentorship, how does someone get into that, and what's the cost?
The mentorship is pretty simple to get in. All you have to do is DM me at Brickle Cigars on Instagram and tell me you want to join mentorship. If I have availability, because obviously have limited room for stuff like that, because I can't just take everybody. It's $3,000, and that gives you 60 days. You could do one-on-ones with me on the phone or in person. If some people, if you're like I have a student that he's in Moldova, which is somewhere in Eastern Europe. He can't meet here in person, so we do it over the phone.
Okay. Well, thanks for that information. And can you tell people where they could find you on social media?
On social media, you can find me at Brickle Cigars.
At Brickle Cigars. Once again, thank you, Laz, for taking your time out to speaking with me here on the Garage Billionaire podcast. And I will definitely be in contact with you because I'm actually in the process of, doing this Airbnb thing. And, I would like some guidance. So I will definitely see what, some of your programs have to offer. And I'm trying to get some units, man.
All right. Well,
some units.
Right.
All right. You have a great day, sir.
See you. Right.
Thank you.